Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Capitalist Corner. I'm your host, Mark Pellegrino, and also the chairman of the American Capitalist Party, along with my co-host and vice chair of the American Capitalist Party, Micheal Liebowitz, who also hosts his own fantastic show called The Rational Egoists. Every time I say this, because I'm hoping there's new people on here listening, but I'm going to say it again. If you watch the show, you're going to get smarter. So please watch the show. That is, if you want a higher IQ, if you want to be more successful in life. He is one of the tools to help you get there. Micheal, anything new to say about the show?
Absolutely. I interviewed Professor Nikolai Wenzel concerning the great Frederick Bastiat, and that is out right now. It was a great conversation. And I have to say this, that Lee announced, and there it is, that this is Be Nice to Mark Pellegrino Day. And they were waging on X that I would fail first. So let's see if that happens.
Interesting coming from Lee.
Lee didn't bet I was going to fail first. It was Katie, but Lee proclaimed this.
Interesting that Lee is announcing the Be Nice to Mark Pellegrino Day, which was vehemently against it on X, I might add, along with tens of thousands of other people, folks. Also, I have to do my daily disclaimer that Micheal and I are both just talking about our opinions with respect to current events. These do not necessarily represent the points of view of the American Capitalist Party. For that, you can go to americancapitalistparty.org, visit the site, donate, become a member, be the change, read the policies. I think you'll like them. I think they'll be a refreshing change from what you see in the establishment today, which is just variations of the same old stuff dressed up in different bags. So as usual, Micheal sent me 3,000 articles because he does what?
I have a big announcement. It's likely that I will be getting my tooth crowned today. So this may be the very last time that my chipped tooth smile will be seen. So let me just.
Yeah, that's
all right.
Thank you for the Persephone fodder. Fantastic. So folks, as usual, because Micheal is an insomniac, he sent me 7,000 articles to read, of which I was able to get a large portion, but not all of them. The first article I found most interesting was by the great John Stossel. Remember when John Stossel was the consumer guy?
Yeah.
Remember when he went out there for the news and he was fighting for the consumer?
I don't remember it, but I've read about it.
Well before your time. Yes, I do remember that. It was like the David Horowitz and John Stossel were the two guys that you went to for consumer advice. And I think at the time, Stossel was sort of a lefty. And then over the years converted into what he would probably call himself an independent or libertarian. But certainly
19 Emmys, by the way.
19 Emmys.
As a lefty.
And a slap in the face.
And now, when he switched,
zero.
No more Emmys.
No more Emmys. I find that telling, since his reportage has not changed. It's vigorous, it's interesting, and he does not cow from competing ideas. He often asks the other side to come in and not debate him, but have a discussion about the issues, and invariably they refuse. So his reporting has gotten even better. Oh, did you know about the slap, by the way? Because I said 19 Emmys on his slap, because he exposed professional wrestling as fakery. And
no.
Yes, he did. He said it's fake, right?
He did, but he didn't expose it. Everybody knew it was fake.
Okay.
He asked Dr. D. David Schultz. He said, "Is wrestling fake?" And David Schultz smacked him and says, "That feel fake to you?"
Yeah, smacked him hard. He knocked him down.
He smacked. I think he went deaf in that ear because of that smack.
And sued him, I think. And he probably won. Didn't he win the lawsuit?
Hulk Hogan died?
Oh, please.
Ian Gilmore, is that true or are you joking? I need to know.
Okay, so that's terrible because Hulk Hogan played my big brother in a movie called No Holds Barred, one of the first movies I did. Don't watch it for the acting, folks, but watch it if you enjoy wrestling and the wrestlers. And Hulk Hogan, when he was in his prime, and he deadlifted the WWF upon his hefty shoulders and made it, I think, the international institution that it is today. Anyway, I want to
my childhood is falling apart here, and let me just tell you real quickly. Ozzy Osbourne, I started listening to when I was 5. My mother's friend had a teenage son, who was into Ozzy, and me wanting to be like him, I started listening to Ozzy from 5. I got picked on at school because of listening to Ozzy. I was called
Really?
I was called the devil worshiper, all kinds of stuff.
It's in Connecticut?
In Connecticut, starting at like 6 in the neighborhood. They used to call me Devil Boy, things like that. I always loved Ozzy. Interesting. When I went to go see Ozzy in the New Haven Coliseum, finally got to go see him. I was 19 at the time. And when I was up, we were up, we bought tickets from scalpers. So we were way up in the rafters. And I looked down on the floor, and who did I see but my mother's friend's son? He was at that concert. So that was great.
Crazy.
Yeah. And I was a wrestling fan as a kid, and Hulk Hogan. I never liked Hulk Hogan because he was the good guy and everybody liked him. Everyone loved him. So, of course, I went against him. But, and now
who were you? Who was your guy? The Sheik?
No, I didn't. Back then, I really didn't have. Well, Junkyard Dog. I guess when I was a little kid, I loved the Junkyard Dog. As I got older, it was what's his name there? Stone Cold Steve Austin. Loved him.
Weren't the British Bulldogs sort of on the fence too? And Randy Savage weren't they sort of bad guys too?
Not the British Bulldogs, but Randy Savage was back and forth. Roddy Piper was awesome. He's dead too, but he was great. Ric Flair, in my view, though, is the best talker that's ever existed in professional wrestling. Oh yeah, and Dusty Rhodes, the two of them were just.
And I have to say, for color commentary and interview, I loved Mean Gene Okerlund. I loved Mean Gene Okerlund. He was a great straight man. And now I'm talking. I'm a total amateur. You and Rozzy Ginsburg are the professional wrestling gurus. I'm just talking.
It always comes back to Rozzy Ginsburg. People in the chat, pay attention.
But I do want to say,
get to the article.
I will say that after.
Sorry.
This, you say everybody knows professional wrestling is fake. All right. I just want to say this is not entirely true. So after I did No Holds Barred, I got free passes to go to the WWF events. So I went to one at the Olympic Auditorium. I don't think that exists anymore in LA, but it was there. It was a massive event. It was a stadium filled with people. And the entire row in front of me believed it all. Okay, Michael, you're not paying attention now because you.
I actually am. I absolutely am. You said you were given free tickets and you went to a show, and everybody in the front row believed it all.
Everyone in the row that I was in and in front of me believed it was real. Believed it 100%.
I didn't fail. I wasn't mean to Mark. These are false accusations. I disagreed. Does being nice to somebody, if being nice to somebody entails never disagreeing with them, then I'm the wickedest.
Oh, by the way, when I was busting your balls about Ozzy, I was busting your balls. I do love Ozzy. I've loved Ozzy for a long time. Not a huge fan of his voice per se, but as a musician and his effect in the world, for sure, undeniable.
I was not ignoring him, Lee. Interesting story here. When Ozzy died the other day, we were talking about it on air. I didn't know Ozzy died, and my phone started ringing, and I looked and saw who it was, and I said, "Call me later. I'm on the air." The guy was calling to tell me Ozzy died. So just now, the same guy, I saw my phone ringing, and I now know why he's calling. So I texted him back. I'm on air. I know Hulk died. But I know what Mark said. Mark said that the people in the audience believed that wrestling was fake. They believed it was real.
The people in my immediate vicinity believed it was real. So obviously.
But how do you know that?
Because I listened to them talk. Let me just say, mouth breather is a good description. Anyway, let's look. We've been 9 minutes into the show, or close to 9 minutes into the show, and we still have not gotten to the first article. So I suggest we get to the first article because it's the brilliant John Stossel, who I think deserves many more Emmys, even though he's sort of out of traditional media now, doing his own videos. He is one of the greatest proponents of capitalism out there. I think he's one of the best articulators of capitalism out there. Unapologetic guy. He wrote an article for Reason magazine, "The Right's War on Capitalism," meaning the right wing's war on capitalism. Now, I'm sure many of you folks, some of you folks, except for Lee, are old enough to know or remember when the right at least had the pretense of defending capitalism and free enterprise. Nowadays, the main pundits on the right sound exactly like Marxist professors. It was slightly less articulate Marxist professors. When I hear Tucker Carlson talking about big pharma, when I heard O'Reilly talk about big oil, when I hear Sean Hannity do the same thing, taking down big corporations, talking about the little fella, talking about small businesses, and they've always had an issue with defending big business. They always thought if they shrunk it down to size a little bit, people would say, "Oh, they're for the little guy." But it's gone straight out to fascism, essentially. Corporate statism. The state should control these organizations because at best they're going to hurt you unless the state regulates them. Do you believe that we're now looking at a world in which neither the left nor the right respects capitalism?
Well, I'm going to tell you two stories quickly. I remember reading Barry Goldwater's book, The Conscience of a Conservative. And in that book, he recommended using antitrust laws to break up unions. And I remember thinking, that's not capitalism, dude. Like, if you have a free market, then people should be free to join unions. And their employers, of course, should be free to fire them. But that's what he was arguing. So that's like the as far as politics goes, maybe the father of the conservative movement. I know that, it can be argued that Bill Buckley or what's his name, Russell Kirk, but politically, Barry Goldwater was the guy, and then Ronald Reagan. Then I remember listening, and I used to like Rush Limbaugh, and I was listening to Rush Limbaugh one day, and he said a few things, multiple days. He said we have to keep Social Security because if people are starving, we're going to end up having to take care of them anyway. If people need health care, we're going to take care of them anyway. So we need to keep Social Security. And he also argued in favor of the war on drugs to protect the moral fabric of the country. In 2000, I supported George W. Bush. I thought that he was the best option. I didn't think he was fantastic, but I did think he was good. But you think now, No Child Left Behind, Medicare Part D with the prescription drug benefit.
Yep.
John McCain running for president. He wasn't big on capitalism, but of course now Trump. So I don't know. It seems like there was the rhetoric. They talked low taxes, they talked deregulation, they talked capitalism, but in fact, they really haven't walked the walk.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like what's happening is a great unmasking in the last 10 years. I think the left has largely represented socialistic ideas, but been too embarrassed to say it. And the right has largely represented some form of corporatism, but has been largely afraid to say it. And now they're outright doing it. And they're outright saying it. And what I mean by corporatism is a kind of fascism where there's the pretense of private control, but really the state prerogatives are what guide, or what are supposed to guide the individual industrialist choice. Now, if you want to get a firsthand glimpse of how ugly and disgusting that is, there's a great book called Vampire Economy about the Nazi economy and how fascism affected the economics of Germany. And it's funny, as I'm almost done with the book, and then one day I'll get to yours, Michael. But he just wakes up when he hears his name. One of the things that I find interesting about people's when they critique Hitler is they say, well, at least he kept the trains going on time. But when you read this book, that actually wasn't the case at all. But I want to talk about the article focuses on James Lindsay. Do you know James Lindsay?
I have never heard the man speak. I follow him on Twitter, so I do see a lot of it, the going back and forth about the woke right and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
I posted Allie Beard's question. That's a question for Mark. Mark runs the show. Allie, I don't. Mark is the guy. He's the executive here.
It's Thursday. Are we going to bring someone on today? We were talking about maybe Thursday being the day we brought a guest on, but we never quite resolved whether or not that was going to be an actual thing. So that's still in discussion. So we'll let you know next Thursday, Ali. Thank you very much for that. But James Lindsay is a cultural warrior, ran like Goldwater. Yes, she did.
Well,
she also tried to convince him. She also tried to convince him not to allow the Christian right to invade Republican politics, and she was unsuccessful at that.
She criticized him on economics. She thought he was good on foreign policy, but she did not think he was a capitalist. She was critical on those ends. But I got to say, and Anne, I don't know that this is if you're just making an observation or if you're saying that we should like Goldwater then. Because when people do that, it just drives me out of my mind, because people will say, well, what Rand said this. And I generally don't care. I care about arguments, and I care about the truth or the falsity, the logical rigor of those arguments. I don't care who uttered them. I can disagree with Ayn Rand. Ayn Rand voted for Nixon. She, and then she, I think, regretted it. She wouldn't vote for Reagan. I would have voted for Reagan, and I still would, as the lesser of evil. So again, Ann, I'm not accusing you of doing that. I'm just saying that it's something that people do, is they will insinuate that a position should be taken because Rand took the position. Okay,
Interestingly enough, I would have voted for neither, although I think I voted for Reagan's second term, but I was young. Anyway, back to James Lindsay. He's a cultural warrior. He was part of a project along with Peter Boghossian that exposed woke leftist ideology in academia. What they did was they wrote several academic papers that were fraudulent, that got into peer-reviewed literature. And they were even asked to become peers in some studies, mostly gender studies and racial studies. But they exposed them for being predominantly occupied by Marxists and predominantly unscientific in their approach to their academics. And rather than those academic communities checking their premises and changing their methodologies, they basically ousted them from the academic community. Peter Boghossian was run out of the University of Portland State University and has since joined the coup of people, I would say liberals from the left, who are starting their own academic institution in Austin, Texas. And he's a part of that movement. Great guy, purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, by the way. He should be a brown belt. But I want to talk about Lindsay a little bit more, because he points out that many Republicans supported Warren's Accountable Capitalism Act. Now, I can't think of a more heinous opponent of capitalism than Elizabeth Warren. She's got fascism tattooed across her forehead, and yet many on the right agreed with this Accountable Capitalism Act. And Lindsay goes further to quote Vice President J.D. Vance. And now, how do you interpret this quote, Michael? While the government shouldn't be controlling the American economy, he said, we should put a little bit of a thumb on the scale, protect nascent industries from foreign competition. What is?
Yeah, I don't want the government to control the economy, but here they should control it. Yeah, these guys, they're not for freedom. They're not for the American system of government. They are not capitalists. James Stephen Valiant is in the audience. I just want to tell you, Mark, I don't know if you were able to catch the show yesterday, but Jim and I had this debate yesterday, and I absolutely smoked him. I beat Jim so badly in this debate yesterday that at the end he said, okay, I agree. It was really something to behold.
Your nose just hit your microphone there because it's growing. So yeah, the right is no longer the standard bearer for capitalism, folks. But there is a party out there that is a standard bearer for capitalism. Michael, do you know the name of this party by chance?
The American Capitalist Party, and it's available at americancapitalistparty.org. I highly suggest everybody go there and join up, donate, buy some merch. Leave some notes if you can about how wonderful Mark and I are. That would be great.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Praise is great. It's feels much better than the opposite. You sent me an article in the Daily Economy about education, and this really actually made me happy. Thank you. By Monopoly is the title of the article. Entrepreneurs bring markets back to education. Now, this is a relief. Now, of course, I wanted to read a couple of statistics here about how successful the state-run and federally funded education system has been. which was only a thing since 1920. Remember, now there was really no such thing as the state interfering in education until around 1920. It's funny how all of these institutions that we consider to be permanent aspects of government have only been around under 100 years.
Yes.
And we've had more than 100 years of functioning, in fact, better without them.
I do have to say before the audience goes crazy, and please don't interpret this as being mean. I'm not, but if it happened in 1920, it's more than 100 years at this point.
Yes, more than 100 years ago. Yeah. Yes, thank you. That's not mean. So here's the wonderful statistics that demonstrate the proficiency of our state-funded, meaning tax-funded educational system. Only 31% of American fourth graders read at or above grade level. Only 28% of American eighth graders can complete grade level math. Now, this is one of the most devastating statistics to me, Michael. 54% of American adults read at or below a sixth grade level. And that is a trend that has been stable for a long time. Now, let me ask you something. How does a party based on principles and conceptual integration possibly make it in a world in which the majority of people can't read at a sixth grade level?
Well, I got to be honest with you. And I'm going to expand a little bit because over the last few days, I really had this feeling, and I'm generally an optimist, but I started to really think, wow, this country's done. This whole, I'll switch over to another topic for a second. I was able to read through all of the intelligence documents that Tulsi Gabbard released. And then I was able to see her commentary on them and see the commentary that's out there on the internet. And the arguments that she's making simply don't follow from the documents that she's releasing, but people are buying it. Now, I don't know if she buys it or if she's dishonest. It's impossible for me to know that, but it's scary nevertheless. It's scary how many people buy into it. I mean, the simple thing, like when they say beforehand, there's no attempt to manipulate votes, or they're not able to manipulate votes, and afterwards say Russia interfered in the election, and they say, aha, look, there's a contradiction. That's crazy. It's an inability to simply make logical connections.
Yes.
And given how many people are out there that can't do that, I'm thinking, how can you reach people? And I'm thinking to myself, and I often think, what we need is a philosophical revolution. We need people to come to the right philosophy. But if 54% of adults can't read at a sixth grade level, how are they ever going to grasp something like an introduction to objectivist epistemology?
Never.
For instance. No. So it's really sad. And, it's going to take a hell of a lot of effort. Good thing. I mean, there's people like Catherine Dickerson. She's great working on education. But
Dan.
Yeah,
Dan
it's a very tough thing we got going on here.
Indeed, we do, and you can really see it in the disintegration of the public discourse, right? I mean, back in the day, the Federalist Papers and the Anti-Federalist Papers were the arguments put forward to the everyday average person about whether or not to accept the Constitution and the federal government as they were trying to compose it. Now, the discourse is reduced to slogans. Make America great again. Make America healthy again. These nostalgic bromides that they're almost like embryonic stem cells. They can become anything you want them to become. They mean nothing in reality. And we've gone further and further away from principles, because principles require you to connect a whole lot of conceptual dots. And you're right, this makes me afraid. However, the positive news is that over the last few decades, parents have begun to understand that this has not been a healthy thing for their children either. And the capper, the one that really pushed parents into finding alternative means of education outside of the state, was COVID. As terrible as the COVID virus was for all of it, the COVID virus itself wasn't bad, but the political response to it was so awful. The lockdowns forced parents into the classrooms because the classrooms came via Zoom, and they got a chance to see firsthand what the teachers were teaching their children, and they were appalled. And as a result, a homeschooling movement has evolved, and all types of competition, not just the Waldorf school and Montessori who've been around for a while, but all types of other educational systems like the Van Damme Academy have been now springing up, giving parents alternatives, private alternatives to the public schooling system, and they are taking advantage of this now. By the millions, they say between 2.5 and 5 million children are now being homeschooled, and not with the curriculum that the state is setting forward, but with the curriculum that their parents are setting forward. And then imagine millions more children are now being enrolled in public schools and or charter schools that don't abide by the curriculum that the state is putting out there. So there is this large base of human beings that constitute a rather large percentage of people rebelling against this educational system. And perhaps, and we even see it in secondary education, now we see people becoming disillusioned with Columbia University. We see people becoming disillusioned with Harvard University. So, Brett Weinstein and Barry Weiss, all these intellectuals from the left have now, and Peter Boghossian, have now started another university somewhere else based on real academic standards, real thinking, a liberal arts education that anybody would be proud to have. This is starting to happen as a movement now. So provided this keeps going, I think we could be in good shape, because you know that a small minority of people can change the world. And it always is a small minority of people that can change the world. If we get 5% of very active-minded folks on our side, we can change the culture.
That's true, but I'll tell you something, Mark. I never paid attention in school. Never. I shouldn't say never. That's a bit hyperbolic, but I didn't spend much time paying attention in school. All my report cards through elementary school came back. Micheal continues not to work to his potential, that sort of thing. I got thrown out of numerous schools, and finally I dropped out of school. I never made it past the 10th grade, but I can read at a proficient level. So if I'm skipping school and not going to school and, not paying attention in school, getting into fights, getting suspended, and finally quitting, what is going on with these people that can't read at a 6th grade level?
Oftentimes, Micheal, it's like they get slammed into these curriculums that are made for everybody. It's a one-size-fits-all curriculum, when every student's brain is developing a different thing at a different time. And I think partly that, being forced to sit in a classroom and go through a curriculum that maybe isn't compatible with what your body and mind need at the time, is what contributes to this, the ADHD epidemic that we see today. Maria Montessori could pick a child up while he was reading, move him to another part of the room, and he never broke focus or concentration. This ADHD thing, it seems to come from the educational style that's out there, not just the culture, the fast edits, the social media that we get on that forces that can make our attention spans much less. But there's the way in which people are educated. There's no sense of continuity, right? There's no overarching principles that help to guide a student's understanding of anything from history to physics. They're just taught as discrete topics, right? And even historical events are taught as discrete events without context. And I think that has an effect on a child's mind. Combine that with the way that they learn to read now, as the whole language method, where they're not taught any phonics, they're not taught any overarching principles to words, but each word is taken as a discrete thing, separate from language, any other context of the language. And I think you have a recipe for really, really entangling a child's consciousness and making it impossible for them to reason or connect concepts. So luckily, there's a movement against this now. I think people are starting to see the light, and they want to protect their children by controlling their education, which they should have every right to do. What do you think about that?
I think I'm very hopeful, or I'm hoping rather, that there is an absolute revolution in education. And I think that
Wait,
it's,
go ahead.
huh? What?
I just saw a comment. I was going to comment on it, but you go ahead.
In the middle of a sentence?
Yes, right in the middle of your sentence, I was going to comment on it. But
Allie Beard. Let me see here.
yeah, I didn't. Yes. Yes. No, I wasn't going to say that. Allie Beard mistakenly said something that I did not say. She said, where the heck are you getting ADHD as a pandemic? I didn't say it was a pandemic. I said it was an epidemic.
Mark, calm down. Do you know that there's people in the chat that are saying things too?
Okay.
She's responding to somebody in the chat, not to you.
All right. I see.
I can't do this. How can I do it?
Everything.
Look, listen, you're telling me that I have to be nice. How can, listen, I know who she was responding to. He's like,
you
no,
know why? Because here we go again.
You started with you were going to lecture one of our audience, and you don't even know what's happening. This is craziness.
You know what? You shouldn't be reading the chats. You should be listening to what I'm saying.
I can do both. That's our job, is to do both.
Clearly you can't.
No, I can, because I know what you're talking about and I know what they're talking about. So now, like for instance, right now you're talking about how I can't focus on both, while Greg Lewis is in the audience telling me that I have to focus on the show rather than the chat. I can do both. Allie Beard, you're not causing mayhem. This is a 100% Mark Pellegrino problem. But what I'm hoping for is a revolution in education, and I think that a huge step, maybe the tipping point, if we can finally get people to understand that it's not the state's job to educate the youth of America, that I think would be a huge, huge step in the right direction.
And that revolution, I mean, I think it started a while ago. You know, have you ever heard the Great Courses series?
Yes. In prison, I used to get the catalog all the time. I always wanted to order it, but ordering that type of stuff in prison is a pain in the ass.
I mean, but you can right now, you can get a college level education with some of the best educators in the world for $100 on any topic. If you wanted to become an expert on Russian literature, for example, you can go through the Great Courses and become quite well acquainted with Russian literature and be taught by some of the best professors in that world for almost nothing. Right now, you can learn languages through apps. Right. And if you're dedicated to learning the language, you can learn it. You don't need to take expensive college courses for it. You can go to almost any library or even apps today and learn chemistry. You can learn physics. You can learn mathematics for very, very little money. And that is precisely what the revolution in education is. It's a revelation. It's a revolution of innovation, where capitalist innovation is enabled to actually infiltrate the school system so that people can benefit from this innovation and become better off for it. Jordan Peterson is building a university with Yaron Brook and Stephen Hicks, among others.
Is that
Yaron
true?
Brook is with Jordan Peterson?
It doesn't sound right. And it doesn't sound right that he would be working with Stephen Hicks either. I happen to like Stephen Hicks, but I don't think Yaron would work with him. I don't know, maybe. And let us know what the source for this is. And not together. Well, you can't put with, and you're causing mayhem on the show.
You're confusing Micheal, and is basically what's going on there.
You were the first one to demonstrate disbelief when looking at the thing. So who was confused?
All lies. So we both here we have something that I think represents Capitalist Party agenda, very much so, that privatizing education is what brings innovation to education and would make education cheaper and more accessible to everyone. And not only would it be cheaper and more accessible, it would be good. And Johnny will go from Johnny can't think to Johnny can think. And that's precisely what we want in a free society. You need smart, moral people to have a free society, folks. And it starts with education. You were going to say something?
Yeah, Sebastian, my friend, made a little snide comment, which I'm not going to dignify with a response. But since he's in the audience, I will tell him that when this episode is over, I'm leaving. I have to go to the dentist to get my teeth taken care of. So you're going to have to send somebody over here to let the dogs out.
Well, is he incapacitated because of his condition?
No, he's fine. He's at work.
All right. Okay. Um,
Do you think that if he was here with kidney stones, he wouldn't be able to let the dogs outside?
that's possible. It's possible to be that incapacitated with a kidney stone.
Well, he wasn't, and he was about as bad as I've ever heard anybody being. But he certainly could have walked from the bedroom to the kitchen.
Some people can't. Some people can't. I'm telling you, when you're passing. Okay, this is Persephone material that I don't want to get into at the moment.
Oh no, we cannot have you be Persephone shy on the show now. You can't be monitoring yourself so as not to give fodder to Persephone.
That was just fodder that we didn't have to go to. Look, you gave me an article by Mother Jones that was extremely troubling. What's my dad had a tube put in his. Okay, so he's suing his girlfriend's. There's a guy who's suing his girlfriend's doctor for prescribing abortion pills. Could this gut access everywhere? So this is a guy in Texas who is suing a doctor in California who practiced telemedicine and was able to give a woman who desired an abortion, he was able to procure for her the abortion pill, which she used. Now, the article gets sort of crazy and complicated about the family dynamics in that situation there, and
ignore it.
That we don't have to get involved in, but the very idea that Texas can sue a doctor in another state for providing medical care to somebody in that state, particularly when certain types of medical care have been legally outlawed. This is going to be a seminal case that, of course, has to go to the Supreme Court at some point. It's terrifying in its implications. Should the Supreme Court say, this California doctor has no right to actually pass this medicine across state lines. They're also trying to use an act from 1873 called the Comstock Act in order to pass off this, in order to justify this litigation. Now, the Comstock Act was an act. It was an anti-vice act that was created, which made it illegal to.
I'm impressed. Did you know that already, or did you look?
No, I did know that.
Who's it named after?
Which made it a Comstock, which made it illegal to.
I know it's named after Comstock. What was his first name? Obviously, it's named after Comstock.
I don't remember. But it made it illegal. I remember it made it illegal to bring certain things that were of a lewd nature across state lines, and also contraception, things that interfered with contraception, if I remember correctly. And so they're trying to use this act in order to justify the litigation. Now, of course, an American Capitalist Party would, I think, repeal this act straight out of the gates. What do you say, Michael?
I think that it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, to go after a prescriber in a state for prescribing a legal medication, that on its own is ridiculous. But the idea that this woman has to check with her boyfriend before getting this medical procedure, I think, look, morally, I got to admit, if I'm in a relationship with a woman, now I'm almost 50, but I'm saying if I'm in my 20s, I wasn't in prison, and I have a relationship with my girlfriend and she gets pregnant and goes and has an abortion without telling me, I'd be pissed. You know what I mean? I would be upset. I think that that's something that we should talk about as a couple. But that's a far cry from saying that doctors should be sued or laws should be passed from preventing her from taking these pills. That's insanity in my view.
Yeah, I mean, there's already been a sort of conviction, right? There was a doctor in New York who supplied abortion pills, Plan B abortion pills, to somebody in one of these red states that outlaw that. And there was a judgment leveled against this doctor for over $100,000, but it's been blocked so far from because of the state's what sanctuary policies, or whatever they call the policies that enable one state to provide this kind of protection for women, as opposed to the states that are denying these protections. So far, this judgment hasn't been able to be fulfilled yet, but it's happening. These people are trying to push this all the way to the Supreme Court and trying to make the Comstock Act, which I believe has been shifted up, right? It's been rewritten a little bit.
I don't know. I didn't even know it was still in place. I actually read about the Comstock laws, who were named after, I believe, Anthony Comstock. But I read about these when studying Crime and Punishment in American History, a book by Lawrence Friedman. And he talked about these vice laws. You know, Comstock was big on vice and that sort of thing. But now I forgot what I was going to say. You're distracting me. But the bottom line is I didn't know that it's still in practice, but it should not be. Women should be free to do with their bodies that which they want to. It's their bodies. You can argue the morality of abortion all you want, but it's not the state's job to tell people that they have to carry a child to term. And it definitely isn't their job to tell somebody who can, what they can prescribe. That's just absurd.
You know, Yaron Brook did a show a couple of days ago that was about abortion. I recommend everybody go see it because he gets pretty in depth as to what some states are doing, including, they're fining some folks for desecration of a body if a woman has a miscarriage, and if that material gets flushed down the toilet, or if she throws it in the garbage, it's mishandling of a corpse. And they're actually sentencing these women to time in jail, fining them for miscarriages. Actually, some states are now treating a zygote and the embryo as if it is a fully developed human being, and sentencing women accordingly. Now, this is scary. This is Handmaid's Tale scary type stuff. So hopefully this case, even with anti-abortion justices sort of ruling the roost in the Supreme Court, hopefully they will rule against this person and allow women the bodily autonomy that they deserve. What I find so ironic about this, Micheal, is that this is part of the woke right that also pretends to be for women. When fighting the trans movement, but by the same token, legally robbing them of their bodily autonomy in so many states. What do you make of this paradox? Because there's lots of women who are now on the side of Trump and the woke right because they seem to be fighting for women's rights in athletics while denying them in the most fundamental aspect of their lives.
What I think is it's all the effect of an unprincipled approach to thought. That ultimately is the problem, is that it's so compartmentalized. Cut my taxes, don't you dare touch Medicare. It's that mentality. Women's rights, no, don't have an abortion. Property rights, individual rights. A private company shouldn't be able to discriminate. Or in the case of Trump wants to control what the owner of the Redskins names the team. He wants to do it through funding, which they shouldn't be getting anyway. So these contradictions are just so enmeshed. It's very difficult. Mongrel philosophy. Excellent term, Persephone. Love it.
Yes, it's mongrel philosophy. Allie Beard, yes, these women do mostly live in the South. And through the telehealth has been a miracle for many of these women, because I often wondered what a woman would do if she got pregnant. She's in the South. She's poor. She can't really move out of the jurisdiction to another state to get an abortion. She doesn't have the resources for it. How is she going to save herself? Well, now telehealth gives her the opportunity to reach out to another state, consult with an actual doctor from another state, from a state that protects women's rights, and that doctor then can transport some form of medication to her to help her out of her situation. This is an appalling state of affairs, folks. It's not pro-life. Anti-choice is not pro-life. Ultimately, it is anti-life. It's the full pro-choice movement of capitalism is pro-choice all across the board. And the relationships you have with people are voluntary and inviolable by the state, provided you're not harming anybody else. You can seek your own rational self-interest with other folks, and the state has no power to interfere with that, folks. It's no legitimate state has the power to interfere with that. The American Capitalist Party would, one, try to repeal this Comstock Act, two, make abortion a thing again that needs to be protected by the Constitution. In other words, it's a fundamental right that needs to be discussed. It can't be left to the states, individual states' tyranny or individual states' prerogatives. This is something that needs to be protected fully and across the board, in my view. Female autonomy, bodily autonomy. Do you disagree with that, or do you agree?
By and large, I agree. I don't want to get into the weeds about the constitutionality of abortion. That would take us far, far afield. I think abortion is a natural right that women have to do what they want with their own bodies.
Right. But it should be affirmed. I mean, it has to be affirmed at the highest levels.
I think it should be. Yes. I would put it this way. I would favor a constitutional amendment granting the right to abortion.
Thank you. Yes, that would be a great thing. So you sent me an article from Psychology Today that was a bit puzzling and disturbing, to be honest with you. Did you mean it to disturb me?
No, I didn't mean it to disturb you. Why would that
your
disturb
conscience,
you?
superego? Sorry to bother you. I think it was about a film that it was a critique on a film that discussed what the conscience was and what the superego was and how.
No, it wasn't a critique of a film.
I thought it was about a film.
It's based on a film. It's not critiquing the film.
Well, I didn't mean it exactly as critiquing the film. It's based on the film, but
I'm sorry. I took you. I apologize. I should not.
You took me literally.
What you say.
Literally. Yeah. Don't actually listen to what I say. I mean something else. Oh no, look, but it was troubling to me. It was a troubling article to me. Now, it could be that I had to read it super fast because I had a show to do and very little time to read the articles in. Tell me why it is you posted this article to me, because I'm curious.
The main reason I posted it because the article is about how it differentiates, first of all, between conscience and superego, and it says that the superego is basically the punitive aspect of consciousness, or superego is what makes you feel guilty or ashamed, whereas conscience can just be used as, to tell you you're doing something wrong, but be compassionate towards yourself, whatever. But what I found very interesting was the idea that you look to your conscience as a guide, or you look to your superego as a guide to behavior, because these things, the conscience, superego, are emotional reactions to the values that you have.
Yeah.
So if you happen to have bad values, and then you look to your emotional reaction, you're going to act wrongly. I talked about it in my book, View from a Cage. When I was a kid, I felt bad when I was afraid to fight. My parents shamed me for backing down to a fight, and I felt horrible. So if I looked to my conscience, it would have told me, go be violent, because I felt badly about it, because that's what I was taught. That's what I absorbed. That's what I learned. We need to look at facts, not at emotions, when we're judging the morality of our behavior. Yes, Ali, my book is like an autobiography. It's an intellectual autobiography, and it tells how I came to think how I think. But so that was why I sent you this, because it's the mistake of elevating emotional responses to positions of moral guidance. It wasn't about the movie. I don't know.
That's no, look, I wasn't making it about the movie. I wasn't troubled by the fact that there was a movie that extolled these ideas. That's sort of par for the course. That's what movies do. They always say follow your heart, which essentially this was. It troubled me precisely because it was an article in Psychology Today, which should be informing us about how our psyches work, and it should be helping us to navigate the world. But this made it less clear, precisely because it amounted to the punchline that you just stated, which is follow your feelings. It was like a moral sort of intuitionism. You know what's right, and
punchline.
You know what is intuitively. You know it intuitively. What'd you say?
What do you mean punchline?
The punchline of the article, meaning the point. The
punchline is of a joke. My God.
Now, let me tell you something.
No,
I use the concept of punchline to describe many things, not just the punchline of a joke, but the punchline could be the punchline of a scene, the point of a scene.
You ever watch Big Bang Theory?
The punchline of a speech, for example. When I'm teaching,
that's misusing language.
No, it isn't. No, it
isn't.
Yes,
it is. There's no punchline to a speech.
No, yes, there is a punchline to a speech. In other words, there is a point that unites
that's not what
all
the
of
word
the concepts of
means.
the piece. It's what it means in acting. Here I am using
No,
acting as an
no,
excuse again.
So
Acting
I'm
teachers
an actor.
often use the term punchline to describe a point, a
I'm an
central
actor,
point or
okay?
thematic point. No, you're not.
Okay, here's the question. This is it's not a question, actually. Let me correct myself. So Ali says that I failed at being nice to Mark. Now, I don't know how many people watch the
Allie
show.
is correct.
You ever
Allie is
watch the
correct.
show Big Bang Theory?
Very
Big
little.
Bang Theory, right? Well, it's about these nerds, and one of them has a realization, and he says to the other nerd, he says, "You know how those guys all picked on us when we were kids?" And he says, "Yeah." He said, "I get it. I get it." Because some people just invite this kind of stuff. When we're in a discussion, and Mark first tells me that the article is a critique of a movie, and then says the punchline of the article, what am I supposed to do?
So here's
I'm like Chandler Bing. Did you ever see the episode of Friends where Chandler Bing
yes, I know.
they bet him that he couldn't go
Yes, I
without
know what you're
breaking
gonna
his
say.
friends?
I know that. I know that.
That's me.
That's you like this? As you walk
Yeah.
off. Look, idea for Persephone, be nice to Mark Pellegrino Day. Then you show every time Mike was mean to Mark. When, for example, when Mike didn't understand what the meaning of punchline meant.
No,
that the
give
punchline,
context.
and that the
Give
meaning
context.
and that the meaning, it's the actual series is called Out of Context, my friend. Remember, it's out of context. So the context is deliberately dropped. All right. So, and it doesn't matter. The punchline can be used to mean a lot of different things, mainly the point, the overarching point of something. So that's why the article disturbed me, Michael. Are you paying attention? Or are you reading?
I am. That's why the article disturbed you. I'm finding out about punchline. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So that's why the article disturbed me. And I thought you did it deliberately because that's just the way you roll. But look, for the next couple of minutes, I wanted you to talk about the Tulsi Gabbard stuff.
No. I have to tell you first about Grok. Okay. So I asked Grok, what does punchline mean? So he said the answer is a punchline is the final part of a joke or humorous story that delivers the surprise or twist, making it funny. It's the line that triggers laughter by subverting expectations, revealing a clever connection, or landing an unexpected point. And then it gives the next part's irrelevant. But here's what's interesting. Grok has memory. So earlier I asked it something about the war in Gaza. So at the end of this is at the end of my question about punchline, this is what Grok says. In your previous question about Gaza, you didn't explicitly ask for a joke, so I avoided humor due to the topic's gravity. If you're looking for a punchline related to that context or something else, let me know how I can tailor it.
That's funny. That's fine.
Grok. That's insanity. So, yes, there could be a punchline to that because it is funny. Okay.
All stories have punchlines. Thank you.
That's not true. They have plots. Are you thinking of plots?
Plots, punchline. No, we're using punchline in a.
No, we're not using it. You're using
we are.
it.
People on the chat and I.
Nobody in the chat is using punchline like that.
Yes.
No, they're not. Nobody uses punchline like that. You invented it. That's crazy.
No, I didn't just.
We're supposed to be educating people here. You're giving them a warped epistemology that we don't need to be passing.
Thank you very much, Ali Beard. I agree with you. So now look, I want you to talk about Tulsi Gabbard before I have to give the Capitalists all day because you only have like 3 minutes.
Yes. So Tulsi Gabbard.
Intelligence. Go ahead.
I did. I read the intelligence articles, and I also read most of the intelligence analysis of the first document dump. And there's a shift in those documents between saying Russia is intervening and Russia is intervening, or Russia intervened on behalf of Trump. But that's in and of itself means nothing because they might have gotten more intelligence. It could have changed. Who the hell knows and who cares? There was no evidence in there that they were deliberately manufacturing intelligence. Zero of that. The worst thing they had is that it was leaked to the Washington Post. It was silly. It means nothing. Now she's released this, and I haven't had a chance to read this, but I don't really need to because I know what it is. It's an intelligence report put together by Republicans in the House of Representatives in 2017 that said no, it was bad intelligence. They jumped to the conclusion unjustifiably that the Russians were trying to help Trump. First of all, I don't care what that particular group of people found. It's one group among many. And it doesn't prove any collusion, but as far, this conspiracy. And secondly, as far as I know, and I'll have to read it if someone can tell me, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think they said there was a conspiracy to alter intelligence. And more to the point, in 2020 or 2018, I get my dates screwed up, but a report came out from the Senate, a bipartisan committee that was headed by Marco Rubio that found that Russia did try to help Trump. So was Rubio in on it? I mean, this is just so stupid. And these people buy into it like they're like, oh my God, look, this is treason. First of all, learn what the freaking word treason means. Right? This is what happens when people think that punchline can mean anything but the point of a joke. This is the end result.
That's not true. You just gave the punchline, though, to the story, which is basically now that people are emotional, anti-conceptual, and tribal, they can't think for themselves anymore. So that's the punchline of that story. So, and one day you'll use it appropriately, Michael, I trust. And an intelligence report put together by Republicans is self-contradictory. That's true. Robert, thank you very much. Robert also said he wasn't going to say that our show sounded like a couple of bickering hens. It would be rude to say that, but so he's not going to say it. But he did say it, and I attribute that to you. Who's Matthew Perry? Never heard of him. Whoa.
No.
I know. I got it.
Okay, good. But the interesting thing is there is a story that I sent to Mark about Matthew Perry. Evidently, we're not going to get to that, but it was in the queue.
It was in the queue. We could deal with that tomorrow.
All right. We'll deal with Matthew Perry tomorrow. Even though it was in the show title for today, we'll deal with it tomorrow.
Yes, we'll deal with that tomorrow also with Q&A because tomorrow's Friday, right?
It is, yeah.
All right, so Q&A is Q. I lose track of days.
If I can't talk, I might have to come here and just sit here and let Mark talk for the whole hour.
No,
then
please
you
talk.
might see.
I hope you talk with a heavy lisp like this because you're toothless. Yes. So tomorrow is Q&A day, folks. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, folks, and also remember to share this from YouTube to other platforms. If you like the content, I have fun doing it. That's all that matters. No, but also it matters if you hit the like and subscribe button. So I just wanted to say I wanted to sort of bounce off the new movement to take kids into private education, to homeschool them, to take control and moral agency. Parents' movement to take control and moral agency over their child's development, I think, is a great movement towards freedom. In a capitalist society, all education would be private. That means you would be able to choose whom you want to educate your children. And because it would be private, it would inspire innovation. It would inspire better product, because the best out there would be the standard by which everyone else would have to measure themselves by. In a state-run institution that follows rules, it's never the best, it's the safest, or it's the trend, or it's the thing that causes the least amount of waves that becomes the standard. So that's the lowest of the low becomes a standard in a state-run institution. The highest, the most successful, becomes a standard in a world where education would be private. So capitalism would free the educational world in the way that would free every marketable service, good and service. All right, folks. So that brings us to the end of our Capitalist Corner for the day. We will be here tomorrow at the same bat time, same bat place, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern time.
Quickly, I got to give them something. I just looked up a bunch of definitions of punchline, and there are a few that would lend credence to Mark's interpretation.
Oh, an admission,
but not standard usage. No,
but of course it's part of the definition, and that matters, isn't it? All right, folks. I've had a great time. There's some people out there that feel, Michael, just before I leave, They feel bad that you're mean to me. But I don't take your meanness as meanness. I just want you to know that. It doesn't bother me. It's fun. I actually enjoy it. So I want other people out there to don't do that. Don't make that face. I enjoy rough banter. That's just the way I work. Because I know.
No! Oh
No,
no!
hold on. No. I know there's going to be a thing. I know where you're thinking that goes. But I know that one
I
day.
know it's going in the clip.
Yeah, it's going in a clip. But one day, I'm going to get Micheal on the mat, and I'm going to get revenge for
Oh God!
every
Oh
single
no!
thing that he said.
Hold on, I can see the clip now. I enjoy rough banter, and one day I'm going to get Micheal on the mat.
That's exactly it. Thank you, Persephone. Yes, but I'm going to get him on the mat. I want you all to know that I am going to torment him for 8 rounds straight. I'm going to give him my full attention. 8 6-minute rounds. It's going to be a blast for me. I don't know about you, Micheal, but I'm going to have a good time. Anyway, folks, you guys, it's been great seeing you. It's been a great show. Micheal, I'm just joking with you. You know that.
And I know. You don't have to explain it. When you explain the joke, it makes it not funny.
I'm not explaining it for you. I'm explaining it for them because they take it seriously.
No, they don't. They don't
Yeah,
take
they do.
they don't think wrestling is real.
No, I'm not. It's not wrestling. It's jujitsu. Jujitsu is real, baby. It's real. It's as
No,
real.
that's not what
as
I was
real as the heart.
to.
It's as real as the heart attack you're gonna have when I put top pressure on you. See, I did that for Persephone. I did that for Persephone. Mark has internalized and accepted the overt verbal abuse learned while being in prison. It's a shame. Spousal abuse at its worst. Deeper with Diego. That's funny. Thank you very much, guys. We will see you tomorrow. Peace.